Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Mukesh's Tech Space. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, I post video tutorials on AWS Lightsail configuration, WordPress hosting and configuration, and videos on other easy to set up and use web hosting tools and services. I also have some videos on WordPress tips and tricks, mostly for beginners. So if you are interested in this type of content, I suggest you consider subscribing to my channel. And also check out all my other video tutorials that I've created in the past several months. In today's video, I thought I'd share with you 5 tools and apps that I use regularly to troubleshoot web hosting issues, DNS issues, and other common problems that occur when you're setting up web hosting services or migrating websites, domains, or anything in that realm you're working on, and you come across problems, you'll want to use some tools and services to figure out what the issue is. So the 5 tools that I want to share with you here today are redirect checkers, DNS checkers, networking, the network header inspector in the browser's DevTools, an SSL Certificate Tester, as well as a mixed content checker. And I use these tools and services often to try to help me troubleshoot and figure out what's going on with my websites or web hosting services. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the very first tool is a redirect checker, and I use this tool often. There are many of them out there that you can use. This is the one that I've liked and used for quite some time. It's to access it, you go to www.redirect-checker.org, and this is a simple redirect checker that will check 301 and 302 redirects. This helps me when I run into the error message that we get that the website has too many redirects and we get into this redirect loop. So I use this, and all you have to do is go to the site and type in the URL that you want to check. For example, I could do web hosting for beginners.net. And just click on Analyze, and this will try to connect to this URL and figure out if there's redirects. If there is a redirect, then it will try to connect to the following URL, and it will keep doing that until it receives a non-redirect HTTP response code, in this case a 200. It could return back a 400 or 404 or 500 if there are errors in your site, but at the end it will come back with a non-301 or a non-302 HTTP response code. So this is pretty useful. As you can see here in this example, the first one, it was a 301. It's moved permanently. And then it goes to www.webhostingforbeginners.net, and then that returns a 200. So then it stops and then returns back the HTTP headers, which can be useful for debugging and troubleshooting or figuring out what's wrong. So again, this will help you when you have those too many redirect error messages that the browser displays, or if you're just trying to find out how the redirects are working and where are they going. Sometimes your browser caches redirects or caches the requests, and then you can't really test properly. So this is another useful tool. You can come here and it will never cache, and it will always work and tell you what the real redirect or issue is with any kind of redirection problems that I run into. Another one that I have recently seen is by serpworks.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, they have free tools. And so this one is a automatic 301 redirect checker as well. So here again, if you type in HTTP and then what you want to test, web hosting for beginners.net, check redirects. Now this one also produces a score based on some algorithm that they may have, which I don't completely understand. But what this does is it'll do checks across several common things. So it'll check HTTP to HTTPS. It will automatically also check www to non-www. And then it will give you some tips. For example, on my site, I see here that the HTTP www.webhostingforbeginners.net and the HTTPS version of that same URL both serve up the website. So it's going to tell me that multiple routes resolve okay, which means that I should take one of these, which is the HTTP, and redirect it to the HTTPS version of the URL. This also has some documentation that may help you troubleshoot your redirect issues. So this is good. So I would suggest go check out these two tools when you have redirect problems. So moving on to number 2, the next set of tools that I want to show you is related to DNS propagation. And this is a DNS Propagation Checker, or a DNS checker. Now this commonly you would use when you're trying to update your DNS records and you want to find out if the DNS systems around the world have now reflect your updates or not. And this can also be used when you're trying to set up services like the AWS Lightsail CDN or their load balancer or other services in AWS, which common, or even non-AWS, so even outside of AWS Lightsail, where they need to verify DNS properties for them to perhaps generate an SSL certificate for you, for example. So when they do verifications, they typically ask you to set up a CNAME record, and we've done this many times in many of our video tutorials. We'll set up a CNAME record, or we will set up a TXT record, which then they validate that you own the domain, and then will generate what you're trying to look for, like an SSL certificate. So this helps in checking all of that as well. So you could check, just type in your domain name and you can check an A record. You could check the CNAME record. You can also check mail records if you've set those up correctly and if they're resolving by DNS systems around the world. You could also check TXT records. So this is a handy tool for you to look at and ensure that your domain name is resolving correctly the way you expect it for people around the world. So this is a handy tool. Another alternative to this tool, if in case this is not available, I use mxtoolbox.com. So if you go to www.mxtoolbox.com, this is another tool that I use. Again, same thing. You can look up, primarily here, you can look up your mail records and see if those are set up correctly. But you can also do other things like DNS lookup, analyze headers for a request, as well as some of the other things. I don't use this much for other items, but I do use it for DNS lookups and MX lookups. So this is another alternative in case the DNS checker is not available. And our next tip is going to be around the network inspector, the network header inspector, and the Chrome DevTools. So if you go to a website, so webhosting for beginners.net. So we'll go to this website, try the HTTPS version of it. And then when you load the website, you'll want to go to inspect. And then this little panel opens up, and if you go to network, this is also a useful tool for you to understand how requests are being made for your website and debug anything that is needed in case there are issues with your website. So all you have to do is open that up, go to the network tab, and then just reload your website. And this starts to list out every single request that is being made by your page to render that page. So if you look at here, you can see the various images that are being loaded, scripts that are being loaded, and pages that are being loaded, icons and things like that. Now, furthermore, you can filter these. This is why I like this. You can actually filter by type. So if I only wanted to see the scripts, then these are all the JavaScript files that are being requested by my page, or CSS files or images. So this is a very handy tool if you wanted to look at what is being requested. Along with the same lines, if you have a CDN in front of this, like a CloudFront CDN or AWS Lightsail CDN, then you can also check here the request headers as well, request and response headers. So if you click on, for example, I have images, so if you click on a JPEG that I'm loading from my site, and if I had it configured with a CDN, this would show me if it was being hit, if that image was being served by the CDN or being served by the website by looking at the response headers. So again, this is a very useful tool. I use it frequently when I'm working on websites or if I'm debugging websites. So I consider you guys try to use this as well. So on to our next tool. This is a tool that you should also have in your tool belt. This is an SSL Certificate Tester. So what you would do here is type in your SSL Certificate URL. And what this is going to do is dissect that entire request, look at the SSL certificate, give you all kinds of information about your certificate, its strength, its encryption levels, how it's being served, how it's configured, and really give you a lot of information that may help you to debug, or if you're providing this information to others, it will help them understand what the issue is with your SSL certificate if it's not working correctly. So really use this as well as part of your troubleshooting steps if it's related to SSL certificates. So consider using this as part of your debugging toolset. And as you'll see here, the overall rating, so it does give you a score based on various algorithms and parameters that it knows. And so for right now, the SSL certificate on our server, which is a Let's Encrypt certificate, is returning back a overall rating of A, which is good. All right, so the final tool that I wanted to share with you is a mixed content checker. So this is not so much a web hosting issue or a DNS issue, but this happens when you're building a website or you come across a website that's using images or files as part of its page from a non-SSL path. So somebody has hard-coded images, for example, on a page, then what you would end up having is, you'll see nowadays most browsers do this, but they'll put a little warning up in the browser that this site is not secure. And you might, if you're doing this for your website, you might think, well, I have an SSL certificate installed, it's configured, why am I getting that? Now, it could be that you have some part of your page requesting files in a non-secure way. And a lot of times this is, again, JavaScript files, CSS files, or images, or maybe those CSS files are requesting images that are non-secure. So this is a tool that will identify those and tell you which paths on your page are non-secure. So all you have to do is enter your domain or your URL, and it will run a test and return back anything that's being requested from your page that's not secure, or that's, basically not secure means it's being requested with an HTTP prefix instead of the HTTPS. And so a lot of times if you have plugins that are not appropriately coded, or if you have themes that are not correctly done, they may have embedded images or embedded CSS files that are calling out to an HTTP location externally instead of an HTTPS. So you can identify that with this process, and as you can see here, it's working through, and it's going to find out if I have anything like that, and it says no issues found. An alternative to this tool is the missingpadlock.com, and that essentially is what you get when you run into that issue. Is you'll have the padlock that's missing and it's saying it's non-secure. So let's see, did I type it incorrectly? Missing padlock. I need to type in www. So again, here you can type in your domain name, and it will crawl the site and find out if the pages are requesting any assets, any files unsecurely. So really this tool will help you when you're building your website, or if you're trying out different themes and you pick a theme that has just coded, put a hard code to a path with HTTP in front of it. So that's it. This rounds up all the 5 tools that I use and I have used in the past when either debugging website issues or web hosting issues, DNS issues, domain issues, or if I'm building websites, I commonly go through these tools to just check if the site's being developed correctly. So I hope you found these tools useful and find this video useful. If you have any other tools that you use that are common or that would be good to share, please put them down in the comments below. If you have better tools to use for these 5 scenarios, then also put those down in the comments below. Again, if you have any questions, put those down. I'll try to answer them. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and share this video out to others if you found it useful. And until the next video, take care.